Email confirms shock person Celia will frame for Anna's death in early ITVX release. There's a real sense of unease settling over the village as whispers of a looming departure begin to take shape. And I think what makes this moment hit harder is just how deeply fans have connected with the character at the center of it all. Celia's storyline this week drags us somewhere far darker. What we are watching now is a woman who has crossed so many moral lines that framing an innocent person for the death of a vulnerable young woman barely seems to register as a dilemma. And I think that coldness, that chilling absence of remorse, is what makes her one of the most unsettling figures the show has produced in years. Anna's death was already harrowing enough. Bear stood helpless as she slipped away, a victim of Celia and Ray's willful neglect after refusing her medical help. The tragedy was compounded by the bleakness of the setting, a farm that had become a trap for exploited adults like Bear and Anna, dragged into the village through Caleb's trucks and stripped of any real agency. Watching Bear cling to the idea of a funeral, desperate to give her dignity, was almost unbearable. He was clinging to the last shred of humanity left in a situation Celia had engineered to be utterly inhumane. Ray's reaction, meanwhile, was as cowardly as ever. His instinct was not to honor Anna, but to hide her, stuffing her body into the feed shed as if she were an inconvenience rather than a lost life. The fact that he only promised a funeral because Bear pinned him to the wall says everything about the power imbalance Celia has created. I think in that moment even Rye realized he was losing control. But Celia was already several steps ahead. Her visit to Butler's, where Moira bustled around sorting donations, might have seemed innocuous, yet it planted the seed of an idea, the kind only Celia could devise with such icy precision. When she learned Ray had promised a funeral, she didn't panic. She strategized. And what followed was one of the bleakest scenes the show has delivered in months. Ray and Bear dug a grave on Butler's farmland, completely unaware that the blanket wrapped around Anna's body belonged to Moira. Bear's emotional goodbye, his voice cracking as he tried to honor a life cut brutally short, contrasted painfully with Celia's total emotional vacancy. She stood there, waiting for the moment to end, unmoved by the grief unfolding mere steps away. When Ray dared to ask if she had suddenly grown a conscience, her response was almost venomous in its clarity. This wasn't compassion. This was insurance. If the body is ever found, every clue points straight to Moira, her land, her blanket, her proximity. Celia believes she has crafted the perfect misdirection, a way to divert the police and protect herself and Ray indefinitely. And I think the brilliance of this twist lies in how quietly catastrophic it is. Moira, already stretched thin by endless troubles, has no idea that her world is about to be weaponized against her. The idea that she could be framed for the death of a trafficked young woman could unravel everything she has left. The question now is not whether the truth will surface, but who will find it first, and whether the village will rally behind Moira when the spotlight of suspicion inevitably lands on her. There is a sense that this storyline is only beginning to tighten, and I can't shake the feeling that the fallout will reach far beyond the grave Celia has left behind.